Therefore, it is important to note that open meeting law only ensures the public's right to participate and comment at a public meeting by attending at the designated physical location as posted in the notice and agenda. If anyone online has technical difficulties, please text or email one of us in this room. We will do our very best to reconnect you. Nevertheless, this meeting will continue as posted. Just a reminder, if it's an agenda item, it is subject to potential action. If any board member feels that an item on the consent agenda warrants discussion, that item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be set aside for discussion. In this way, the consent agenda will be approved in one motion. That request should be made now or before the vote on the consent agenda. Any amendments to the agenda? I have one. And that is to add approval of Universal PreK Partnership Program, the pumpkin patch. Do I have board agreement to add this to the agenda? I don't see any disagreement. All right, thank you. Anything else to add to the agenda or any changes to the agenda? Tim?
I thought the last meeting you said that there would be a discussion to follow up on the presentation, the admin presentation at the last.
I certainly did, and it's not on the agenda, so let's add that to the agenda. We're talking about the summit.
Yeah, it's
Okay.
not my item, it's just, you suggested.
Thank you very much for reminding me. That's where the parking lot makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we're adding that to the agenda? Yes, great. Okay, and
We probably ought to discuss the meeting with Senator Hushy.
okay, so we have a couple of items going on the agenda. One is adding a discussion of the summit, and the other is the potential of a community forum with Nader Hashim. And I think that can fit very easily under legislative update, under that umbrella. Okay, and did I see another hand up? All right. Okay. So I would like to put the pumpkin patch as a first order of business, and I think we'll do it right after as we begin with board matters.
Sounds good.
Okay, great. So please remind me. Thank you. I appreciate that. I would like to begin tonight's meeting by thanking Putney Central School for this beautiful setting this evening. It is quite a remarkable art room, and the display in this room and in the hallway is just a wow moment. So we should all, at some point during the break, take a moment to walk around. Let's begin with student matters. And on the agenda, it's the update. It's an update on student voices on the process of transitioning from elementary to middle to high school. So I open it up to Riley Bristol and Willow Sharma.
Yeah, so Riley and Bristol and I, the two student representatives, are really hoping and looking forward to working on this project throughout this year with engagement from students throughout elementary up to middle school and eventually into high school. Again, it's a very large process of just general student engagement in all aspects of school. Last meeting we talked about our procedure, our purpose, and our plan for this project. Today we're just giving a general update. We haven't made a ton of progress so far, but we have found our personal advisor in the high school, a social studies teacher who we will likely be meeting with once a week to every other week to talk through our ideas, plan out our next steps, and get advice from. We also work with Ms. Parker almost once a month, just talking about what we talk about here at the board meetings and also our general project. We have drafted up emails to send to principals throughout our district, again, restating our proposal, our project, and highlighting what we are looking forward to and hoping to do discussion-wise with elementary students. And along with that, we have drafted up some discussion questions and a little bit more anonymous style questions to get a general feel of what the engagement and move-up process is for elementary students throughout our district. So that's all so far.
Great,
That's
thank you. That's quite impressive. It's well laid out.
Yeah.
Any questions from the board? Well, we look forward to hearing how this develops.
Thank you.
It's a good time of year. It's nice and early in the year as we think about the transitions.
Very thoughtful approach.
Yes, yes. Okay, are there any other students who would like to make a comment? All right, I do not see any hands up online. All right, we are up to public comment on non-agenda items. This is a time for the board to listen and to take notes. It is not a time for the board to respond to comments or to engage in dialogue with the public. If appropriate, the board and administration will work on next steps. Yes, please identify yourself by name and town.
Hi, good evening. I'm Martha Noyce from Brattleboro. I have a couple things I'd like to mention. When I'm reading the various committees and agendas that are made public, I was very pleased to see that one of the committees is beginning to address and have conversations about more information being made available to the public and inviting the public to the various numerous meetings that are upcoming in the next couple of months. So I was pleased with that. Also knowing that last week when the summit was taking place, a big part of that was the testing data that was being released. And I was just wondering and looking forward to who will be addressing and how the data figures will be connected to the, what I believe is a goal, the 10% increase to proficiency with literature and math. And then finally, with many, many budgetary items coming up, I am urging all board members, principals, committee members, superintendent, to take a look at the overall staffing within the schools at the various levels, whether they're teachers who are tenured or not tenured that might be able to have a shared position within a school, staffing of people in the clerical field, counselors, coaches, assistant coaches, consultants, mentors, that category, curriculum department and finance department people and staff, to see if there are any possibilities of coordinating their positions and helping with the budgetary restraints that I believe are going to be part of the issue. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think excellent points. Anyone else, public comment on non-agenda items? Okay, I do not see any hands up, so we are moving on to the first order of business, which is approval of universal pre-K partnership program entitled The Pumpkin Patch. Do I hear a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you very much. We are moving along with that. All right, so the pumpkin patch, great, all right. Leadership Council updates?
Mine's not necessarily, sorry,
Yes, go ahead,
it's
please.
not, Tim and I went to the Leadership Council orientation, and I just wanted to give everyone a little update on that. It was really well attended, there were representatives from almost all the schools there and all the towns. Everyone was really engaged, asked great questions, they shared some concerns, and we just learned a lot, and it was really good. So, I don't know, Tim, if you have anything more to add about that?
Yeah, there's some solid suggestions. One is, they want two-way communication. They don't want board members just to go to LCs and tell them what's happening, but they want really us to be open to suggestions, comments. They want it to be really two-way. Second, there's a question about absentee board members. I don't think all the board members realize that if you can't make an LC, you can always ask one of us to sub. So somebody can always be there. What other suggestions were there?
One of the things I remembered was about the communication piece, was they were saying that they would like more relevant information that pertains to their school as opposed to just sharing what we've done in our meetings. So if we can all kind of focus on how the information translates to them, I think they would appreciate that as well.
And finally, is something that the communications committee as council has followed up on is a common board report. That's still being discussed. Is Ruby, are you?
No, Ruby's not here right now.
Oh.
She's
doing at Leadership
that's
Council.
Yes, she will be back shortly, yes.
So anyway, I understand the communications council is going to talk about perhaps a common forum for board members to use for their board updates to the leadership councils.
Okay, any other leadership council updates? I have a question about the orientation. Is it just the one orientation, or will there be a second one?
We actually didn't talk about that as a group at that orientation, but we can certainly put a feeler out there to see if we want to check in mid-year. We did last year. We also had planned to do a spring orientation, but that never came to fruition. We kept putting polls out there to find a common date, and there was just so much goes on in the spring. We couldn't find a common time and date based on the feedback we were getting, so we just did the two last year.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so a mid-year one
Yeah.
is in the works. All right. Board subcommittees and SU updates. We really do need Ruby here. Yes, we need Ruby here, don't we? Yes, so why don't we put that on pause and let's move on and we'll come back to it. Update on legislative issues. Tim, do you want to begin that
Yeah.
process?
Sure. So is David Scholes online?
He is.
Okay, David has kindly agreed to kick this off with a report on the World Schools Community Alliance's work with the legislature. Let me preface by saying that the steering committee of the RSCA has spent weeks and months of their own time, uncompensated, listening to hours and hours of sessions, we really owe a debt of gratitude to that steering committee that works for free just to promote the principles of the RSCA. And David is on the steering committee, so David, take it away.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you, Deborah, for allowing me to speak. And I also, thanks for not having my camera on. It's kind of nice to be home and a little bit disheveled and not have to worry about it.
Well, we could actually require that if you are going to speak at a board meeting, the camera must be on. No, I'm joking.
That's too complicated, the Zoom bombing thing.
That's a point of humor, David.
I wish you could see me smiling.
Okay.
Well, what I wanted to do was just kind of go over a little bit of what was in Act 73 that was passed, and that was passed by all of our reps voted for the initial House version, and then it was amended somewhat. And Molly Burke, I think, changed her vote, but all the rest of our legislators voted for this bill, and it's now is being applied, and parts of it that required further information and study are underway. So I wanted to kind of go through some of the basic points in the bill, and then the steps that are being taken and the things that are actually happening and are going to happen in the next couple of years. So the first thing is that, as you probably know, the governor and Republican and Democratic leadership all were looking for a way to, and so are we, looking for a way to control costs. And they came up with this concept of a foundation formula set by the state, which means that the state would set a given amount of money that would be spent, and that money would be divided based on per pupil counts. And there's weighting included in that, and a bunch of other things that are under consideration. But the primary change is that school boards will no longer build budgets with their administration, and towns will no longer vote on them. The budgets will be, the amount of money will be dictated by the state. In order for the foundation formula to generate enough money, it has to raise taxes, and obviously a viable tax rate was going to require large districts to spread the cost. There are places like Windham Southeast that, given the numbers that they're projecting now for per pupil, it'll lose many millions of dollars. I think one projection was that there would be $7 million loss. Places like Barrie would see a really significant increase in their tax rate. And lots of smaller towns, particularly rural towns, where they've really kept their tax rates low, will see their tax rates rise. So the only way that can be done to minimize the cliffs that happen is for larger districts to be created to spread the effect. And so that's what's in Act 73. The districts have to there have to be fewer large districts in order for Act 73 to work and to allow the foundation formula. Now, the steps toward that include a couple of things that were already in place, like the Commission on the Future of Public Education. But one of the things the law created, and they began their work in August, was a redistricting task force. And they're working on creating maps, different options for combining school districts and supervisory unions into larger districts. The charge that they received is fewer districts. They're coming up with a lot of interesting ideas and a lot of interesting concepts for organizing the state and the maps that they're trying to develop. But the change to fewer districts is the primary charge that they have. The maps creating fewer districts is the primary charge. So there are going to be fewer districts unless that changes. The second thing, and that's part of why I'm talking to you, is that we're going to be wanting to have people contact their legislators and let them know how they feel about this. So that's the first thing. They're creating a map which will recommend fewer districts, a format for fewer districts to the legislature. And then the other thing is that in December, the Commission on Public Education submits a report on a recommendation for school closings, how to handle the closing of schools, and what process should be undergone to close schools. Now, some of you know that you as a school district, as a merged district, have articles of agreement, which are like a constitution, and they have a really thorough and carefully thought out process that includes a lot of public engagement, a lot of public contact, and then a vote of the district and a vote of the town. And the town where the school is has, if they vote against it, the school doesn't close. The town, the people that are most affected by it, have the authority right now under the legally voted document, the articles of the articles of agreement of the district. They have the authority to do that. The proposal that's being developed in draft form right now, but it will be finished up in a couple of months and presented to the legislature in December, is giving that authority to a merged board, uh, to the merged board of the larger district. And I'll talk a little bit more about that after I kind of run through the things in Act 73. The third thing that was created is a voting ward working group. Once these large districts are created, and again, the law has said these districts will be created. So this is going to happen unless something changes. The voting ward working group, before the 26th legislative session, will look at the maps and provide a format for dividing the state up into voting wards, so that Windham County could very easily be in one large district. Most of it will be in one large district, and we'll probably have one person or one ward in that district to elect I'm sorry, one. There won't be a board. There won't be a ward per town. There'll be a ward per population, unless they find another way to set it up, and there really isn't another legal way. So there'll be wards that will identify 5 to 7 people, probably, because the larger board is harder to operate. Probably 5 to 7 people from across the largest part of the county to be the school board. So and on November of 2027, there'll be a special election for the first election is scheduled for November 2027. And again, this is in the law. The date is set November 2027. They will elect the new school boards, and that they'll take over in the fiscal year at the end of 2027 in fiscal or for the next fiscal year. So
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
With
please.
with that election, will it be staggered across the state?
I don't know. They haven't decided that. I
Yeah.
think it's more likely that everybody will vote in November. The plan is for everybody to vote in November, like with all the other elections.
Yeah, when I read Act 73, that was one of my questions. How are they going to handle that November election across the entire state?
Yeah, it'll be part of, I think, part of the general elections.
Okay.
So that's the voting ward working group. So those are the 3 organizations that are working on this and the 3 areas that they're working in. Then in August, of 2026, next August, the State Board of Ed will have finished amending the Education Quality Standards Rule 2000 series, which will ensure compliance with class size minimum standards. So they're going to be establishing the State Board of Ed is going to be establishing standards for class size. That has yet to be done, but again, that's a requirement of the law that work be done. They'll also be looking at the minimum transportation requirements, equitable guidelines for minimum transportation requirements, because they're recognizing that there will have to be a lot of bus routes added to get kids to these large, in the case where schools are closed, to get kids to these centralized schools. The other thing, let's see. And then there's the legislature will get a report about necessity, small schools that are small by necessity, which means they are so far from other schools that they have to be in place. They'll be defining those things as well, so that all the conversations about how to classify schools and how to close them are included in the law, and they're all underway. They're all actively being carried out right now. So that's kind of the lay of the land. The 2 major points are that school boards smaller school boards will disappear. Large centralized school boards will decide when a school is closed, there'll be a reasonable process, but ultimately it'll be the decision, the arbitrary decision of a board of people who aren't necessarily affected by it, compared to what we have now. And the so that's the primary thing. So what the RSCA is working on is first to slow the process down, and we're hearing that from all over the state. People are really upset. There's a lot of stress, a lot of confusion, and people are really worried that this is going really quickly. There's a proposal around. People are creating signs that say fix the property tax and leave our schools alone, because the issue has always been about money. And so we're trying to slow this process down and make sure it's a really thoughtful process. There certainly are improvements that can be made, and there are ways to save money as well. There are some really good reasons, really good ideas being offered around consolidating administrative services to save money, and that's been demonstrated across the country to be a successful way to save money, for schools to save money. So we're looking for a slow, thoughtful, collaborative process on funding and improvement. We're looking for mergers to be voluntary when a merger would be favorable in a region, that the mergers be voluntary, that the state not force mergers. And the third thing we're looking for is a town vote for closure, an accountable process of educational and financial analysis, and a town vote for closure. So that's a lot of information, and I had hoped to come in person and have a little whiteboard and go over a lot and sort of make a lesson out of it and have some activities for you and stuff. But instead, you get a really quick verbal presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions or respond to emails or phone calls or meet people for coffee or anything else, any way I can help to help you understand what's going on and figure out what you think is best for our schools, and then to communicate that to your legislators. I think the primary message I want to get out tonight is that if parts of this are not, you're not welcoming these things, if you don't think these are good ideas, you need to communicate that to our legislators. Again, they all voted for it on the advice of their party leadership, and but they're your legislators, not the parties.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Tim?
Yeah, David, thank you so much for hitting on all the big points. A couple of minor things that the commission is recommending that I thought were interesting. One shows that we're really ahead of the curve, because they're recommending that every school board have student representation. So we don't just have one, we have 2 reps. So we're doing well on that. It's also interesting that they talked about licensed teachers being employed by a larger district or a supervisory union, having the flexibility to move teachers from one school to another with ease. An interesting one regarding us, the voters voted on our stipends. Well, that would be taken away, and the legislature would decide how much a board member gets for a stipend across the state. It's just another sign of the loss of control from.
Can I just add to that? The language in Act 73 says that board members will be paid. And again, that was a question that I had. That's not a stipend if you're saying you're going to be paid. So the legislators are paid. So I had a question about that. I think Act 73 just makes for very interesting reading and lots of margin questions.
Well, it makes me wonder if we control the pay that a board member gets. Would they also control the eligibility to try to professionalize the board in some way?
Yeah.
A lot of things to worry about. But before we go on, is Jocelyn online?
Jocelyn's online. We're not moving on from this topic at all.
Okay, Jocelyn and I would like to share the floor. So are we shifting away from some of what David was saying? No.
No, we're not. Good, because I'm wondering if people have questions.
Yeah, go ahead from David's.
So, okay. So, based upon what David was saying, I just want to have a pause and see if people have questions.
Well, I kind of do. David,
Go for
if
it.
you, yes, sorry.
No.
David, if you could speak to the discussions that they may have been having regarding the differences between supervisory unions and supervisory districts and that aspect?
Yes.
Johnson.
One of the things that actually, that probably one of the most important things that the RSCA was able to do last year was to get supervisory unions included in the charge to the task force in developing their maps. At least one map had to include supervisory unions. And the primary reason is that supervisory unions, right now, the law requires that if you're in a school district, you have to have the same operating structure. You have to all be K-6 or all be pre-K through 12. Or you can't have a pre-K through 8. And you can't have choice, or you all have to have choice. It's required everything be the same. So that's why we have part of why we have supervisory unions, a small part of it, but it's a place where all different kinds of districts can receive the administrative support that they need to be successful. And what 73 would do is change the law so that anybody can be in a school district. You can all be glommed together and then not have representation. You would have one large school board, and towns like Vernon would just, well, they wouldn't have anything. And actually, neither would Dummerston, Putney, or Guilford, because then it wouldn't be big enough to have a representative. So that's the primary difference. And so the reason to keep supervisory unions is that they've been successful. It's possible to streamline them by taking services that we can be that can be done cooperatively and putting them into a combined administration. In fact, you're part of a BOCES. You're part of the first BOCES, and that's the Board of Cooperative Education Services. That's exactly what you're doing. So services would be moved up, and the SUs could focus a lot more on what's actually needed in the schools, and not have to worry so much about administrative services that can be done far from the buildings that don't require presence or geographic locations. Did that answer your question, Jocelyn?
Yes, and thank you.
Thanks.
Other questions? I think the reality is we have tons of questions. It's just that there is so much uncertainty. I, for one, am very glad that there is a push to slow the process down. Somehow having to come up with maps by December for a decision to be made, I guess, in January, is quite rushed. To talk to some of the people who are on that redistricting committee, they feel it. It's unwieldy. Tim, I see your hand.
So Jocelyn and I would like to share the floor and talk specifically about the Rural Schools Community Alliance. As we know, the RSCA has voiced strong opposition to forced district mergers, particularly under the BOCES Part 2 proposal that would require mergers of districts with fewer than 500 students. The RSCA supports voluntary cooperative supervisory unions as the most cost-effective, educationally sound, and democratic model for Vermont. They have shown with conclusive evidence that efficiencies and equity are better achieved through shared services and collaboration, not consolidation. Jocelyn?
And the RCA message has been consistent from the beginning. They support a student-centered, equitable, and locally based governance system and remain opposed to top-down reforms that undermine local identity and democratic voice. We would like to propose that the board allocate $2,000 from our board budget as a continued contribution to the Rural Schools Community Alliance to support their legislative advocacy.
So with the Act 73 task force preparing to submit its recommendations, that advocacy is more important than ever. Once the task force's report is released, decisions about consolidation, governance, and funding will move quickly to the legislature. That's when RSCA's lobbyists will be most needed to translate recommendations into fair policy, to protect local control, and to ensure all Vermont schools are treated equitably. This contribution continues our past support and helps sustain RSCA's ongoing efforts to defend local democracy, adequate and equitable funding, and the preservation of locals. I said that. The $2,000 investment may seem modest, but it helps to ensure that our communities continue to have a professional, informed, and persistent voice in Montpelier.
So with that said, I would like to make a motion. I move that the Windham Southeast School Board allocate $2,000 from the board budget as a continued contribution to the Rural Schools Community Alliance, RSCA, to support its legislative advocacy on behalf of Vermont's public schools.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion and it has been seconded by Tim. Discussion. Brian,
Yeah, just a question. Do we have $2,000 in our budget? Do we have $2,000 in our budget?
we certainly have $2,000 in the board's budget.
Right.
Yes.
I believe the professional services line has ample amounts of money in it.
Do we have a known total by any chance?
At this
Frank?
point in the year, yes, there's a significant amount of unexpended funds in the professional service budget.
Okay, a significant amount. All right.
Like around 100,000.
I can look it up, but it's definitely ample to cover.
I can barely hear, I'm sorry.
It's definitely ample to cover a $2,000 request.
Okay, thank you. Other discussion? Ruby?
I think that it's been pretty clearly laid out. I really appreciate Tim and Jocelyn. Thank you for all of your work on keeping us kind of informed around this. It feels to me like we've aligned ourselves with the RSCA. We have relied on them, and they're very clearly telling us that there are going to be needs for for a lobbyist, and so I think we should trust in that, and I would be in support of this expenditure.
Okay. Other discussion? All right, let's bring it to a vote then. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, so $2,000 donation to the RSCA.
David has his hand up.
Okay, David, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you very much. That vote of confidence is really helpful. Tim is right. We have been incredibly busy. Fortunately, we've got the time and the energy, but the lobbyist is just crucial to this process. But I just want to reinforce the message that much more crucial is what you board members do in terms of communicating what you care about to your legislators. If you feel inclined to double down on what Deborah said about slowing it down or whatever you want to tell them, or you want to protect local boards or any aspect of it, let them know that you're paying attention and that you care and that you want your voice to be heard. But thank you very much.
I am stunned by the amount of work that the RSCA, the steering committee, has taken on showing up at all of these meetings, speaking out about these issues, writing about them, and keeping us informed. So David and others on that steering committee, thank you so very much. And again, I want to echo what Ruby just said to both Tim and Jocelyn for keeping us informed on these issues. I think it's, and obviously this need for updates on legislative issues will stay on the agenda for a very long time. Okay.
Perfect segue. Perfect segue.
Perfect segue. Yes.
This afternoon, I got an email from Senator Nader Hashim, and he was offering to have a meeting down in Brattleboro. We can invite the public. He offered to invite Emily Kornheiser. But like I said, I got this email on my way out the door, so we really probably ought to talk about when we might have availability, keeping in mind his availability would probably be way more important than any individual one of us. And I really don't want to coordinate this, but I'm happy to continue outreach with Senator Hashim. So.
Talk to me, Ann.
Talk to you. Okay.
I'm sorry, what just happened?
Shannon said talk to her. Coordinating.
Oh, really? Thank you very much, Shannon. And I think at this point, if we can, Anne, if you can reach out to Nader and include Emily Kornheiser to see what their schedule looks like.
Yeah, all he suggested was before the session starts.
Which means in the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Pretty quickly. Okay, great. Ruby.
So whenever I'm happy to help, and you know, the communications council can flyer and get the word out. I'm happy to help in whatever way.
Okay, so we have Shannon and Kelly working on that. I'm sorry, Shannon and Ruby. Shannon
Is Kelly.
Kelly. And
Happens all the
yes,
time.
I'm getting it together. Yes, all right.
Yeah, and
Thank you. And as well, we all need to pitch in on this. And using a facility in the district for a community forum, because I think one of the other issues is making sure that the larger community is aware of how much is at stake. And whether we all agree or not, we need to be awake to a changing reality. And it is changing. So I really, I really think that's important. Anything else on the legislative update? Okay, Matt Shidley.
I voted yes for this. I would encourage the board to continue to stay close, particularly when it comes to allocation of funds for the RSA. I could be wrong, but my understanding is I find myself having a bit more confidence based on some of the conversation, the work that we're having, conversations about our district and the viability of our schools. I'm feeling a bit stronger about that. When I look at other places in Vermont, they're not necessarily in as strong of a position as we are. I think the work that the RSA is doing around having clear discussion and voices being heard, advocacy is important. I want to continue to support that. I also want us to have good fiduciary responsibility for our taxpayers' dollars in our district. So the monetary amount of 2,000 at this point seems very reasonable. That's why I voted yes. I would want to, going forward, I would want to know much more about our district's, the impact of what's happening with the RSA on our district specifically in order to continue to fund more money. If that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Yes, absolutely, yes. David, did you hear that?
I'm not, am I muted?
No, you're fine.
Oh, okay. Yes, I did. And I'll contact Matt and get a little more specific information about what he wants to know. And also give him some more information about the other ways that the district is supporting lobbying in Montpelier. So, yeah, Matt, if you want, I'll send you an email because I've got your address. I'm not sure you have mine.
Sounds good. I look forward to it.
Great,
Okay.
thanks.
Okay, and then of course that information can filter back to this board.
Of
Right.
course.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Thank you.
Great.
Okay. All right, are we ready to move on? Okay, looking around the room. All right, let's back up and go to board subcommittees and SU updates. We had put that on pause in order to make sure you were in the space, Ruby. Yes.
May I start?
You may start, absolutely.
So I wanted to give an update on the Communications Council. We've been very active and had a few meetings since the last time our board met. And I did send an email today to board members that had a number of things to consider. The interesting thing about the Communications Council is oftentimes we need to work and we need to work quickly, but we want to have approval and we want to make sure that we are communicating with the will of the board. So sometimes the timing of that is not, it's a little bit funky. And one example is I sent to kind of completed graphics to get the word out about two particular things. One is the budget development process that essentially it's a graphic that in pretty ways that catches your eye tells you what ways you can what meetings you can go to that would have an impact on the budget development process. So leadership council meetings, talking to your principal, and then budget meetings related to the finance committee, and then discussion at a board meeting level. Those are kind of the different layers, and so we were kind of charged with how do we get the word out and how do we inform people, and one way is to make a pretty flyer. So we did that, and so it's ready to go, and so we kind of put it forward for review and approval, and whether or not it's just something that you're informed of, and we go forward and do that as a committee, or if you want to vote on it is kind of your call. The second thing that we're putting forward is actually a graphic that we've used every year that is about board candidacy and open seats on the board. So we do have 3 seats at this time that will come up in the coming cycle. One 3-year term in Brattleboro, 1 3-year term in Dummerston, and 1 3-year term in Putney. And that is cyclical. There's always about 3 every year. And so what we want to do is, regardless of whether incumbents are running for those seats, make sure that people are in our district are aware of that possibility. A contested election is actually not a problem, and something it's a sign of a very vibrant community. So, we have historically used this graphic and put it out usually kind of like in January. You know, we think to ourselves, oh God, we need to tell people about if they want to run, but they need to get some signatures in order to be on the ballot. So we thought about putting it out earlier and getting the word out a little earlier, even though this is considerably earlier. There's no real information and there aren't petitions that are out there yet. So those two graphics are kind of ready to go. The Communications Council discussed and talked about putting them out. The budget one is more urgently, like we want that to go out now because the first finance committee meeting that's listed there is in mid-November.
Yeah, and we don't meet again until the day after
Yes.
this first meeting.
Right.
Yeah, we meet again November 18 and
Yeah.
the finance is November 17. Can I just say regarding dates, double and triple check the dates because that can slip past us, and there have been some serious kerfuffles coming out of a town's clerk's meeting, office. Regarding the petition, the open seats on the WSESD board, it says required 30 signatures, but not every town is
That's
30
correct.
signatures. Dummerston, the last I'm aware, was 19. And I'm sure Putney does not require 30.
It's somewhere between 18 and 20.
There we go.
Yeah.
So
I think that
is there a way of redoing this so that, or indicate anywhere from 19 to 30, depending upon your town, or something, changing the wording of this?
And that's something that comes up periodically at the Communications Council as well, because that 30 number comes from our largest town, which is Brattleboro.
Right.
So I think that historically, the reason that it says 30 is the idea is, well, let's go with the largest amount so that, you know, if someone from Brattleboro happens to go on there and they don't accidentally see 19 and think it's 19, that's how we settled on 30 in terms of making it simple. That being said, it comes up every year, and I could, you know, hopefully we can figure out language that is clear and not confusing, but as catch-all as possible.
Or maybe even a parenthetical after each of the towns with an asterisk to indicate, because 30, I appreciate you want to go with a high number, but if someone is considering this, let's say from Dummerston or Putney, they can actually be very put off by the 30 and feel more comfortable seeing 19. I'm sorry. Jocelyn?
Yes, I can't raise my hand. I'm sorry. It doesn't seem to give me that option as a
Good,
host.
so speak out, yes.
So when I got the form to run, they told me it was 1% of the population.
Yeah.
So I don't know if putting that formula on there and then maybe general population counts for the towns might make it easier. I don't know.
And so in terms of just considering how this would look in a newspaper or something like that, you want it to be crisp and clean with as few numbers as possible. But I'm just saying, required 30 from your town is maybe giving ascendancy to Brattleboro when you've got two other towns there that are not Brattleboro.
Yeah.
So anyway, I throw that out.
I also think that, I think that Jocelyn's right. I think it is something like 1%. And that is the challenge, is that our towns, the number of people in our town change.
Yes.
And then that 1% changes. You know, it might change by one or two people, but that's where it's a little bit of a moving target every year. And so my gut feeling is to, you know, to actually direct people to go to your town clerk.
Right.
Because they have to go to the town clerk to get the forms to sign.
Right.
And so I think that I hear all of this, I think the language can change, and I think my gut feeling is for the language to change in a way that kind of is referring to the town clerks.
Right.
What if we just said signatures of registered voters from your town, and contact your town clerk?
Right.
That's what I'm thinking.
I think
Makes
so.
sense.
Right. Okay. Did the board take a look at these two flyers? Have you seen them?
I did. I told Ruby I really like them because I'm a big fan of getting more community involvement.
Okay. And this came in today, and that puts individuals at a disadvantage. They were attachments to Ruby's email. Other comment? Jessica?
I wanted to make a comment, and I may have shared this in the council, I don't recall. When we first, if we're gonna release the looking for candidates sooner than typical, I think we could do it kind of in a phased approach, and the first call to action is learn more about running for the board, because the V.S.A has some good resources about running for the school board. So I think that's a good call to action while the town clerks aren't quite ready for people to be emailing them. So I just wanted to make sure that didn't fall through my brain crack.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
thank you.
I want to comment on graphics on the other one. And these are sort of cartoon figures. And, but they are human beings. And it makes me think of Dick and Jane readers. And the lack of representation in a Dick and Jane reader. And we are hopefully attuned to the complexity of our community, the growing complexity of our community in terms of people of color. And I just don't see this represented in this flyer. Have other people, are you looking at the flyer? Can you see it? And I don't know whether, but again, these are cartoon characters, so I don't know. I just want to throw that out there in terms of the optics. And but you certainly don't want something that is questionable. It raises the issue of whether we even have to have human beings as the image. If we were to go with well, because my favorite type of dog is a pug. Anyway, I'm just going to throw that out. The optics are of concern to me. Yes, Willow.
I do agree with that. It's not something that I think that is very direct in your face. It's not like a huge notice of mine, but it is something that's there. I think it's something to take consideration of.
And even though we might turn around and, I don't know, can you see the optics on this? Even though we might turn around and say, oh, whatever, it's not a big deal, it does resonate with individuals. And it may not bubble to the surface, but it's there. So I really do want to throw that out. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's good feedback, and these are graphics that I did not hand draw. So I think that it's an easy enough thing and being mindful of it. Sometimes my brain goes there and sometimes my brain doesn't. And this isn't a moment where it didn't. I focused on other things and I appreciate being called to that attention.
Because you may not even need the graphics per se, right? You've got nice big print and whatnot.
I think we needed graphics, but I think we could have
something
appropriate graphics.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Okay, great. So I'm hearing that the request to the board is, are we open to saying to Ruby, go ahead with this and let's get this out there? Because we don't have another opportunity to see it.
Go ahead.
I hear go ahead across the room.
I'm good.
Okay, is that Jocelyn?
Jocelyn again, yep.
You said yes, all right. Okay, I'm seeing nods. I don't think we need a motion with this.
Great.
I think thank you so much.
Great.
This is great.
Awesome.
Perfect.
I'm not done now.
I know.
Okay. Those were the two kind of easy, low-hanging fruit. Thank you so much for supporting those. There's a second kind of element of what the council presented, and I sent an email that we sent around so that preliminarily folks can see it, and the expectation is that we would discuss it at the meeting on the 18th. Is the 18th the meeting?
It is the 18th.
That's the hope. And this is all related to the board goal around community engagement and communication, and the desire to have a focus on developing some listening sessions for a few different stakeholder groups, particularly that what was articulated is 2 listening sessions for staff, 1 listening session that would be student-led, and then a listening session that would be community-focused. Those were laid out pretty clearly in our board goals. Quite candidly, the timeline of those board goals as they were laid out was pretty aggressive, and so the first listening session was supposed to be in October with the staff. That has not happened, but we have been steadily working on trying to kind of get ourselves organized in such a way that we understand how we're moving. So what we laid out in email form was really kind of a pretty simple bulleted kind of like, this is approximately what the broad brushstrokes of what we're thinking about. And I think that the Communications Council wants to almost, get a sense or like get a barometer reading from the board around, is this the right approach? Is this what we want? In part because, particularly with the staff one, there's some timing, in addition to timing of when do we go to staff listening sessions, we are also envisioning the second of the listening sessions being a little bit more site-specific, and that would mean a lot more work on behalf of the board, because it would mean multiple smaller listening sessions. That is what we have envisioned. So all of that
Can
is.
I ask a question?
Yeah, please.
Just reiterate, please, the purpose of the listening sessions.
Right. So the Communications Council received some direction from the I think it was the Board Goals Task Force, which did some work around thinking of what is the purpose, what of the listening sessions, what's the focus, and where that landed was for the listening sessions to be focused on asking our community, how are we doing with communications? How could we do better? And so it's really an opportunity to to have that engagement with our stakeholders, to allow for communication, but also to get information that will help us to be better at getting through to our stakeholders. That being said, I do think that there's, a hope that a listening session can open up to lots of, it can create space where people can talk and can share something that they're burning to share, even if it's not necessarily on the agenda, but that is the purpose. And there is at what we envisioned also, which is a little bit different or wasn't laid out extremely clearly in the board goals, we envision having a survey option. And so we did develop, Jessica helped us with drafting a survey that was sent to board members. And so that is kind of ready to go and be considered. And that can help you, if you look through that can help you to understand really what the content is we're hoping to get at these listening sessions, because the surveys would be, they're not in real time. So you're seeing what kind of questions we might imagine people might come up in a listening session.
And the survey has sections broken out. One devoted, I think, to teachers and staff, one devoted to community members, one devoted to students, if I'm not mistaken. I looked at it very quickly, and I didn't look at the questions in detail, but I know that when you create a survey, you want to make sure that you nail all the critical points, that all the information that you might want or that might be useful in that survey, because you can't go back and do it again. So I just want to throw that out. The other thing is, when I think about listening sessions and I think about the need for a community forum, working around Act 73, it seems to me we might want to have one session where we come together. And because to ask community members to come together more than once in this season coming up is, anyway, I just throw that out for consideration. Jessica.
I think, Libby, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the idea was we would do kind of the survey during this season when it's already kind of full. I envision the community forum with the state legislators its own thing outside of this board goal. And then we would be hosting after like the holiday break when we come back. That would kind of be when we started doing the in-person hybrid listening sessions. Okay.
And at this point, what do you need from the board? Do you want this on the agenda on the 18th to discuss it thoroughly?
Yes.
Okay. And can you send me something that I can attach to the agenda? Okay, so that it's front and center, community members see it on the agenda, students see it on the agenda, we see it on the agenda, and that way we can really plug into this.
Is a separate email appropriate, or a PDF, or what do you want to be?
If you send me something that can easily be transformed into a PDF, or you send me a PDF, that would be great.
Okay.
Yeah, okay, and that way it can be attached. Right. And so I'm gonna wait to receive that for the.
Sure.
Right, thank you. All right. Anything else? Board subcommittees, anything else? Tim?
Yeah, Anna's on the Special Education Parents Advisory Council. And please mark your calendars, November 20th, there's a major event for all guardians, parents of students in need of special education. And that accounts for about 20% of our student population, actually. So the first part will be, I've sent you the slideshow. Tate and his group will talk about what an IEP is, what a 504 is, other aspects of special education.
I'm sorry, you sent this to us?
I thought I sent it to you.
She did send the slide deck to the weekends.
We didn't,
We got it,
we did get it.
yes.
Okay, all right.
I'm glad I'm reminding you.
Yeah,
But
thank
the
you.
second part, to continue the theme of two-way communication, it's another listening session. There will be a half an hour devoted to board members simply sitting down and listening to what parents and guardians of special education students think, care about, questions they have. Not questions really, it's a listening session. They can ask questions. So it's important, I think, to encourage everybody, well, people to come to this. And do you want to add on to that?
No, other than I just realized you didn't send the slide deck to the whole board. I can forward the slide deck to the whole board. It would be great to see their CPAC is a really active committee, and I'm sure that there's a lot that our parents would like us to hear, and I'm hoping we'll have a very large turnout.
Tim, what's the time and location of that?
It's November 20th from 5 to 6:30.
Do you have a location?
Location,
Oak Grove. From 5:30 to 7, and there will be food, and there will be childcare if you need it.
Okay, so I didn't get it, did I?
No, you did not.
Oh.
I will see to it that the rest of the board gets it.
Okay, thank you, okay. Mhm.
I did post it to the WSESD board social media account. The Facebook page did put up the flyer that was created by Tate's staff,
Mhm.
and because we do, let people know about that particular stuff.
So that means I have to go on Facebook.
You might.
Okay. All right, I thought we were trying to stay away from social media, but no, it makes perfect sense. We do need these items to be fully advertised. Okay. Are we ready to move on? Okay. Update on board goals. I think we just sort of heard one just now in terms of communication.
Yeah, at this point, a lot of the board goals have been divvied out to various committees. The board goals task force, did not meet in between the last meeting and today due to illness, and we're working on rescheduling, so we'll have another meeting
All right.
coming up.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. And we are up to a discussion on the continuous improvement process, CIP, and board admin collaboration. I think this will be an ongoing discussion, but we can begin it right now. Or we can save that energy for another session. I'll certainly put it on the agenda again. And, okay, so it's an ongoing discussion. We're gonna move on to the approval of the slate of Leadership Council members. It's attached to the agenda. Everybody has seen that list of names. And we need a motion.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, all discussion. Yes, Jessica.
Did we find out, the last time I looked at the list, the Putney list was quite short.
I reached out to the central office today, and we're still waiting for that Putney list to
Okay.
be a bit more robust, which we know it is.
Right.
So for now, we approve the members' slate as is. When the Putney Leadership Council grows beyond 2 members, we'll have another slate, okay? All right, any discussion, any more discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the members' slate as attached to the agenda is approved. All right, now, there was an amendment to the agenda to include a discussion of the summit that just took place on November 28th. So, I'm sorry, on October 28th. We have not yet hit November 28th, have we? And that was last Tuesday. So, there was discussion on that occasion. And there's something to be said for the discussion being immediate to the experience. That way the experience is very fresh for us. So, Tim.
So, what I thought was a little odd, the first part of most of the session was a good touching on CIP goals in elementary and perhaps middle school. But then when it came to the high school, it was about the dual enrollment, which most of the board members here have seen that terrific presentation 2 or 3 times in the last 2 years. Dual enrollment is very important for students going to college, and which comprise about 50 or 55% of our graduating class. But this board is also very concerned about students who may not graduate. Hence, we have a CIP goal to increase the graduation rate. So my question for the administration or the board is why, I would like to have data on how well we're meeting that goal of decreasing chronic absenteeism. I'd like to know results of STAR surveys. How are our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders doing in reading and math? And I'd like to have more data on a sense of belonging. How is the climate at the high school? So we focused on a really great program, but I was left very hungry for information on how are all of our students doing at the high school. And I asked my fellow board members, am I alone in this, or do you share that concern?
So I think that was an open question to the board and not a rhetorical one.
Right.
I am going to suggest that these are very specific questions about BUHS and the need for data from BUHS. And so I think that I'd like to forward these questions to administration for follow-up discussion. I don't know that answers can be provided today.
If that's the will of the board.
Well, okay. Well, it's, I don't know so much as it's the will of the board, but consideration that we want answers that perhaps cannot be provided today. Mark?
Yeah, just to be clear, the summit presentation include plenty of data having to do with BUHS, BAMS, the Career Center, and all of our elementary schools. I don't have the board calendar in front of me, but I do believe we have a presentation plan specifically on graduation rates and what we are doing as a system to improve graduation. So I don't recall when that is on the calendar, but that is scheduled to be a focused presentation.
I
Well,
just want to say, as a temporary short answer to your question, Tim, as a student, we do complete a survey, I want to say every other year. It's not very long, but it does address climate and how you are well-being within the school. I want to say there's 1 or 2 different ones. That's to the best of my knowledge about that. So there is data collected.
Yeah,
February 9th.
yeah, we just found it. February 9, which is the next summit. Systems to Support Graduation, Annual Report. So I have a feeling that a lot of the issues that you're raising will be addressed at that point.
See, I see that very late in the calendar. If there's a problem with literacy among 10th, 11th, 12th graders, it should be aggressively attacked right now. And I think as a board member, I'd like to know what the status is right now of students who are really struggling academically and perhaps socially. So, and to know if our resources are being directed towards that. That's what I see as my job.
Again, I would just ask the board to do a review of the October summit. There's plenty of data in that presentation specific to the high school, just like every other school in the district. A lot of time has been put into this presentation calendar to map things out where we can give each presentation its just due. There's work happening every day and everything that you just brought up at VUHS. Where it's not like we're waiting to do the work on February 9th. Sure. That's a moment in time where we'll have a winter benchmark period likely completed or close to completed. And we'll be able to share, again, our local assessment data and where we're at. And we'll do it again in June.
So I'm going to use a word that is perhaps suspect. I'm going to assume that with an endpoint goal of an increase in graduation rate, that resources are being thrown at that goal. What I would like, Tim, is if you could send those questions to the board so that we can take a look at the slides that are on the website at this point from the October 28 summit and assess what we experienced last week. I don't know, how does that?
I'm always happy to email the board.
Would you please do that with those specific questions, just the questions, so that, because for me, a lot has already taken place since the summit on last Tuesday. Some of us have been to workshops at the annual conference of the V.S.A. And so I'm drawing a blank, and I don't want to take the time to go through the slides at this point having to do with the summit.
And there's many presentations that were given last year.
Yes.
This exact topic.
Yes. Martha?
I just had this like flashback of my teaching years, or Martha Noyes Brattleboro, in many different states. And I remember the teacher meetings when we would get the state testing data back. And sometimes it was breathing a sigh of relief. Sometimes it was gasping with pulling your hair out of what am I going to do differently, because honestly, sometimes what you were doing wasn't working for too many of the students. So I can only hope that with the data released last week and teachers seeing some numbers that needed to be improved upon, many teachers were asking themselves, what can I do differently? What can I do more of? And area principals, because my many principals would say, okay, I want to know in a week, what are you going to do differently? What are you going to improve on? What are you going to increase? So I'm hopeful that there are teachers within the district that have thought about these questions, and principals in the district, elementary, middle, high school, department heads that have posed these questions. And there should be some answers out there for the next meeting. I don't think we need to wait until February. I think there could be some enlightenment about what's being done differently.
I want to say that a big piece of the summit was devoted to that very point, where Slate principals, spoke about adjustments that had to be made, about shifts that had to be made in order to address student needs. And the presentations that took place, and I'm thinking about presentation having to do with Oak Grove, Green Street, Guilford, and other schools, Academy. They were very specific and they were very different. So that's my experience. So that did take place at the meeting. I know you had to leave at a certain point, but I thought the summit really addressed those issues very clearly. And of course, we're hearing that from the principals, because they're gonna pull it all together in terms of what their staff are doing. So again, regarding Tim's questions, get them out to us. I think we need to go back over the summit. I think we should make a commitment as board members to take another look at the summit and think about that.
Just
Yes, Tim.
So at the summit, we had VTCAP scores, which we all know only covers 10th grade. It doesn't cover 11th, 12th, or 9th grade. It doesn't cover 10th, 11th, 12th. So for that, we have the star assessments. When and how often are the star assessments given?
3 times a year.
What?
3 times a year.
At
It's a
the high school?
benchmark. I'm assuming, yeah, they fall in our benchmark window. So we assess at the beginning of the year, we'll have one coming up in December, and then we do another one in June.
So if we're sophomores, juniors, seniors.
All students.
Great.
Now we have a system, K through 12.
Great, and it would be useful to see a 2 or 3 year trend too.
I'm just looking at the slides.
Yeah,
and
the
just-
summit, they did
It's in there.
star.
Yeah.
There are dibbles and star slides for both literacy and for math, and it has the high school in there.
Thank you.
And we talked about it.
Thank you.
And
Thank
it is
Thank you.
broken down, it's
So
comparing
23
fall.
and 24.
Fall
Okay.
to fall.
Okay.
For the
I
3 years.
I thank you very much, Kim, because Kim
Thank you.
Price, because I am not going to spend the time going through it right now. Once again, I think it's reasonable to ask the board to take a look at this and take a look at this in relationship to BUHS. Jessica.
I wanted, so this is on the topic of the summit and our sharing our thoughts of the summit.
Thank you.
I think, so I appreciate in my short time on the board, I think I've been to 3 summits. I appreciate like all of the tweaks and the feedback and the two-way communication between the board and the admin in creating these presentations. I was surprised to get home before my kids went to bed last week. I was really, really surprised. And I appreciate all of the information, and I just, as I'm sitting there listening to all of the benchmarking and testing and all of the things that are in motion at all of the different schools in our district, I'm just reminded that we are all human and teachers are human, and teachers today are being asked to do so much more than they've ever had to do with social emotional learning and academics and trying to fit all the pieces of the puzzle together. I think I've never really met anyone in this district that doesn't care about the kids. And it just, I noticed that hearing from all of the different admins last week, and I notice it when I run into teachers and talk to teachers, when my children's teachers contact me about something that's going on at school. It's things that when I was in school a long time ago was not something that ever went home. And so I think I just want to keep that in mind as we look at data, and at the end of the day, we're really just trying our best. And I do appreciate looking at the data, but I think the qualitative data that is hard to measure won't ever come through in summits.
In terms of what's going on in the classroom, in the hallways.
Exactly.
And at the buses. Yes, thank you. Kim.
Yes, I just wanted to thank Mark and all the admin team. I mean, that was a really nice presentation. And I appreciated every aspect of it. And I appreciated, John, what you were explaining, what you were doing at Guilford, and I appreciate that your leadership team came in during the summer and worked really hard and gave their time, because that's a big ask and a big thing for them to do. And I just appreciate their work, just to make things even better for the students at Guilford.
Yeah, here. And when I think about the goal of growth, having to do with the CIP, you're going to assess and determine a goal that is achievable. And that means you're working toward that goal. So when I think about an increase in mathematic literacy or language arts literacy, I'm sure I'm not using the correct terminology anymore, but, and graduation rate and the ancillary of chronic absenteeism and addressing that and making sure that students buy into the experience of coming to school every day on time because something important is going on. That energy is coming through. So again, let's do our homework as board members, and at this point I'd like to move on. Okay, thank you. We are about to go into the administrative report. I presume a fiscal report? Do we have a fiscal report? About how long? Can you give me an idea?
I would say about 8 or 9 minutes.
Bravo. Okay. Okay, so we are, and then, we do have an executive session. So, we are not going to get home in time to, put children to bed. I'm just gonna say that. But we're gonna move this along as quickly as we can. Nevertheless, at this point, we're gonna take a 10-minute break, a stretch break. And we will come back at, someone help me, 7:47. All right, we are back from our break. Thank you. Administrative report. Did the recording start?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we're on it, yes. Here goes.
Yeah, be real quick here. I don't have any new hires or resignations or retirements to announce. So that's good. I'll just share that last week, myself and some folks from the board attended the V.S.A. Annual conference. That was really well organized. I attended a workshop Deborah and I did together. The topic was on trust, which was really helpful, and we had some great opportunities to talk about that and how important that is. And then there was another workshop that I attended in the afternoon, focused on roles and responsibilities of board members and superintendents and how that meshes and works together. So that was well done. The presenters that I was fortunate enough to see and participate in were excellent. So just wanted to share that. Today, a number of us...
Before you move on, I thought the conference was, since the topic is the conference, I thought it was much better than last year's conference. To begin, the keynote speakers were excellent this year. And that's always somewhat luck of the draw. Someone has seen someone, heard someone. This year, it just really came together. So Carlene, you were there.
I've thought about the keynote speakers like 25 times. I thought they were just incredible and so inspiring. They were phenomenal.
Yeah. Ruby was there as well. So, yeah, sorry to interrupt. I
No,
just
that's
wanted to say, I think the conference is worthwhile. I know a number of people who went last year, couldn't go this year, but it was good.
Yep.
Yeah. Ruby?
I just wanted to say that one thing that I really value about these conferences is there's a lot of opportunity to speak to other districts, and we were, I think we kind of deliberately sat with one of our neighboring districts in Windham Northeast. So we were with the superintendent and the board chair, and the board chair is someone who I've heard about and known about and read emails about because she's very active with some of the RSCA things.
Cheryl Charles.
Cheryl Charles. So that was really valuable, I think, especially as we are entering into this time where we are considering mergers of various kind of forms. So I was able to have some really pointed conversations and questions of other board members. So I think that's valuable.
Yes.
Right now.
Yes. Yeah, that kind of networking.
Yeah.
That takes place around a table, on a break, during a meal. Yes.
Okay, last one. Attended a conference at the Killington Grand Resort today with Nancy and Frank, and Hannah Parker was there, and Linda Alvarez, our Teacher of the Year. Linda had an opportunity to speak in the morning as a keynote speaker, and she was fabulous. Represented our school district really well. It was a large conference. 95% of the school districts were represented at this conference. So it was basically like the state of Vermont education system. So that was really great. That was inspiring. Nancy and I attended a workshop on PLP development.
What's PLP?
Personal learning plans.
Right, PLP.
Hannah attended some workshops on graduation requirements. And I know Frank attended a workshop on finance and systems and how to continue to be on the cutting edge of how important it is to have a really efficient finance system. So that's just a quick reflection, but just wanted to share that. I think I shared in the past that when I go to these conferences, with other school districts in Vermont, I walk away feeling really good about what we have in place and what we're doing. So it is an opportunity to kind of recharge the batteries and be inspired with, let's continue that work forward and continue to push. But I feel very confident in our school district, our systems that we're developing. And, that was a reinforcement that I felt today after meeting with so many different school leaders across the state. And then lastly, the administrator goals. Deborah and I talked about this on Thursday. So what I ended up doing was putting all the administrative goals together, and I redacted the names and the identifiable information. But now you should, I don't know if the email was forwarded to everybody, but.
It was, but it was forwarded today.
Yeah.
So, again, I would, whatever discussion, let's hold it to make sure that every board member has seen it and read it, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess the point I would just make is I think it's very clear that they're terrific goals tied to our continuous improvement plan. So, proud to share those. That's it for me.
Okay. So there are no hires, resignations, retirements? No. All right. And yes, Matt.
Madam Chair, I'm noting an update from administration on the committee charged with evaluating class rank on transcripts.
Oh,
on the agenda.
Yes. Right.
I think Hannah is online. I don't know if you heard that request, Hannah.
Yeah.
Unmuted. Yes.
Yep. I can unmute myself. Yes. So we met about a week and a half ago as a committee and reviewed what we have in place. And I think unanimously the committee feels like we do need to move in a different direction. And so we have gathered examples from other high schools around the state. And I would say about 80% of them are using more of a numerical metric system where they're kind of grouped together versus having like 1 through 200. And it's a little more complex than just looking at class rank because there's so many things connected to it in our building right now, scholarships, valedictorian, salutatorian, there's just a number of things that are going to have to be nuanced with this. So we are meeting again, I believe, next week to start looking at all of that information.
Okay. So I'm sorry, what are you experiencing other high schools are doing? Can you say it one more time, please?
Yeah, they're using a system that has like cum laude and like those types of systems so that you, based on like where your GPA is, you fall into a certain category versus being ranked numerically across the entire grade.
All right. Okay, thank you. So you are at this point assessing this?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Future updates coming our way. Are we ready for the fiscal report? We are.
Can I?
Oh, yes.
Before
One moment, yes.
I just wanted to, in scanning the board report, I did see, and I think it was Academy. There's a leadership council that was requesting and that they are asserting that they don't have a board representative. I just wanted to make sure that we do have a board representative for all of the leadership councils.
So my understanding is that there is a board representative to Academy, and schedule has been worked out, Jessica Everett, and is on point, having to do with the leadership council at Academy.
Great.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Planning to go on the 13th.
Yeah, on the 13th. So there is actually a conflict at this point because we do have a board meeting on the 13th. But and it's just this issue of meeting after meeting after meeting. So Jessica and I had a conversation about the conflict, and the resolution is that Jessica will go to the leadership council meeting. If only because September and October were without a board member. So, yes. What are we doing here? This is the fiscal report. I think we need additional copies. Do you have an additional copy or no? Here we go. Here we go. Of this one.
I have one at school.
Oh, here we go. We have one extra coming our way. Okay. Okay.
Good?
Do you need one?
Sure, we'll take an extra. Right, do you have one? No. You're good. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, so this is an extension of the discussion a little earlier about budget process. So the timeline that I've passed around on the single sheet, it's got the SD on the pink side and the SU on the blue side and the single sheet. So Finance Committee reviewed this
Can I just say,
a few weeks
right
ago.
now, just the reorganization of this, to break it apart, SU and SD, wow, that's great.
All right.
Because it was so packed before. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah, and we have Vernon on another sheet. We used to have them all on
Right.
one sheet.
Yeah.
But if you kind of look in on line 10 or 11, we're here on November 4. And so this was planned for today to, after Finance Committee looking at this schedule last week, basically signing off on the deliverables, the meeting dates, some of the legal requirements. We're ready to kick it off here as an official budget planning timeline. So probably the most significant event that we're engaging in the budget planning for is the line 31, the district annual meeting. So that's by our articles of agreement, the third Tuesday in March. So there's the March 17. And we all know that boards are required to warn meetings in advance of an annual meeting. And actually the statutes only require one public information meeting within 10 days of the annual meeting. So you see that on line 30. I don't think we need to go through every line here in this if we're going to stay on my 9-minute timeline. So the other date that we have action item is January 27. That's contemplated to be the third budget iteration for the fiscal year 27 plan. And then the Finance Committee will be looking at the first draft of the elementary budget on November 17. That's a Monday at 5 o'clock. So Finance is continuing to meet the day before the board meeting at 5 in the afternoon. Secondary budget is the following week. And then we start looking at revenues and funding, capital plan on the successor weeks with a first comprehensive budget for the board, first full draft for the board, December 16. So those are a couple of the highlights and the dates prior to November 4 are a whole lot of analysis and discussion and decision making with the leadership teams, along with the input from leadership councils and so on, board that goes back to June 9th, the first line on that timeline there. We set our goals for the system, and of course that has staffing implications, materials, software, capital improvements, and so on. So everything stems from those goals that the board initially engaged in on June 9th, and then just last week, all that discussion again was very much informs the budget allocation of resources. The other handout I wanted you to be aware of, this is something that Mark and I and Bryn put together for our principals and our director at the Career Center, guiding principles. We do a memorandum every year to help focus the types of analyses that we need to be engaged in, and then the macro environment that public schools live within, right? The parameters that the legislature, the Agency of Ed, and the State Board of Ed set for us. So I'll go through this briefly. Most of it actually you've seen, because a lot of it is the CIP, and we put it in this format just to, again, help focus planning and use of resources around improving. But the first page we should spend just a minute on. What I've done here is pulled out of Act 73 the action items that must be in this budget that we're planning for fiscal year 27. And then queue up those things that are coming up right around the corner. So the very first thing is compliance with the average class size minimum standards. That is effective July 1, 2026 for this budget that we're planning. On a very preliminary level on the elementaries, schools, we will comply with those. I don't see, unlike maybe our neighbors to the north and to the west, they will have challenges with that. We won't in all of our school sites. On the secondary level, we'll be looking at those with Hannah and Keith later this week, and we'll obviously address anything where we don't have those class size minimums in our schedules. The school construction, fortunately, we are on track with implementing our capital plan. So we won't have any major construction on the immediate horizon as the state goes through this construction funding iteration. They actually haven't funded it. They're just saying they're going to contemplate funding it, and they will be setting up building standards. So there will be some engagement there, but we're in very good shape with all of our schools on renewable fuels and modern building automation systems. So a couple of more things that are just down the planning timeline, which of course we're always thinking at least 3 to 5 years ahead as we plan for budgets. So as was discussed this evening, the redistricting should be shared at the end of this upcoming legislative session so that we can begin looking at infrastructure transitions and governance structures moving forward. So page 2, most of those are future implementation dates, so they won't have an immediate impact, but certainly planning for them will be in our consideration as we're putting together the budgets. The bottom of page 2, page 3, just they reiterate our CIP goals that we presented on several times, and here at the board level, and so we're just again connecting. How do we improve graduation rates? How do we create a sense of belonging? How do we address those academic achievement directly through this budgeting process as we allocate resources in each school, in each classroom, in being mindful of these goals that are very clearly articulated. The other piece that we definitely don't want to lose sight of is page 4, just terrific success in student growth, in achievement. Just you heard several of our principals who are here tonight present. As you can glance at those graphs, just remarkable growth as a result of the way in which we've allocated resources and focused on student growth as a system. And then we also have some challenges that page 6, again, we won't lose sight of the learning gaps that was very well articulated last meeting between some of our groups of students. And then page 7 is sort of a very aggregate use of staffing in a ratio table format to help identify equitable uses of resources throughout our systems. The page 9 through 12 were statistics that we shared last year that we thought we would just tack on to use as trend data references for our principals as we plan for the fiscal year 27. So that's my sort of overview of our planning process, and then those deliverables on the 17th, elementary system draft, 24th, secondary draft for the finance, and then as the AOE statistics come in December, we can assemble the first comprehensive draft on the 16th for the board. So, any questions?
Thank you, Tim.
I haven't got the independent budget review committee's report, but did you make any adjustments from that report
From last year?
Yeah.
They didn't have any specific recommendations around this process. They did have recommendations for a lot of it was at the policy level, the legislative level. But they I believe they will be joining us the Finance Committee on the 17th, and we'll be sure to get their input.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, we have to go through this closely. Thank you very much. And I also want to thank Ruby as chair of finance and putting together all these dates for dissemination. Yeah, thank you. So we are moving on then to the consent agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, consent agenda has passed. Policy and Amendment Committee presents for readoption. D12, prevention of harassment of employees. Do I have board permission to group these, or do we do this singly? I can't remember what we did. We grouped them, okay. So I'm just gonna, let me start again. One of these is a new policy, and that's E19, Behavioral Threat Assessment Teams. So that is for adoption. And for readoption, D12, Prevention of Harassment of Employees, F37, District Equity Policy, and G13, Reasonable Computer Network and Internet Use. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor of the readoption of these 4 policies, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, and for a second reading, the Policy and Amendment Committee presents F5, searches, seizures, and interrogation of students by law enforcement personnel or other non-school personnel. This is presented for a second reading, meaning we have a 10-day period, minimally. Any concerns or questions, please forward it to a board member who will make sure that Ann and I receive it. This is for a second reading, and the assumption is when we come together on November 18, it will be put forward for readoption. And under new business, Policy and Amendment Committee presents for a first reading, D15, travel reimbursement, F43, gender freedom in schools, and G17, proficiency-based graduation requirements. It should not say grade requirements, it should say graduation requirements. And that is being presented for a first reading. So please take a look at these policies and offer comments, suggestions, with the understanding that it's going for a second reading on November 18. Okay, thank you. You can see we've been busy as a policy committee. All right, we are going to move on to the proposed executive session. Is there a motion to find that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or a person involved at a substantial disadvantage?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. Is there a motion to enter into executive session under 1 V.S.A. 313A7, the academic records or suspension or discipline of students, inviting in Superintendent Mark Spino and numerous principals, administrators? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, there is no action anticipated. Thank you.